If you spend enough time with people, you'll start to see patterns. After a while, you notice that everyone has their own story, their own unique path, but there are some common threads that run through all of our lives. It's those threads that we often find wisdom. Now, if you think wisdom comes with age or maybe from years of experience in a particular field, but let me tell you about a doctor who found wisdom in one of the most unexpected places through his work in cannabis. 30 years in the ER can teach you a lot about the human condition. Dr. Weinberg, an experienced physician, spent decades treating patients in crisis. It was a revolving door of faces, each one a fleeting encounter, each case a monetary intersection. You patch them up, you move them on, rarely do you see them again. It's a tough, sometimes thankless job, and it's one that leaves little room for deep connection. Then about 9 years ago, something changed. Dr. Weinberg began a new chapter as a medical cannabis practitioner. It was a shift that brought him into a different kind of relationship with his patients, ongoing, evolving, and deeply personal. Suddenly, he wasn't just treating symptoms, he was engaging in conversations that went beyond medicine. He was learning about their lives, their struggles, their triumphs, and in turn, he was learning more about himself. These patients came from all walks of life: CEOs, lawyers, people with chronic illnesses, and those facing terminal diagnosis. What they shared was an openness, a willingness to explore something that had been stigmatized for nearly a century. They weren't swayed by the old reefer madness propaganda. They were looking for relief, and they found it in cannabis. This openness led to a kind of camaraderie, a shared understanding that they were partaking in something still controversial in many places. They were seeking change, and in many cases, they found it. Dr. Weinberg saw transformations. Patients who regained control of their lives, who found pain relief, who rediscovered joy and purpose. He learned about the plant's biochemistry, neurotransmitters, and the intricacies of the human brain, subjects that had never been taught or had long been shelved since his days in medical school. One story that stands out: a computer programmer with severe back pain. Dr. Weinberg was curious how the high THC product affected his work. The programmer explained that cannabis didn't hinder his performance. In fact, he felt that it enhanced it. He found solutions to problems that he couldn't solve otherwise. It was as if the plant unlocked a part of his brain that allowed him to see things more clearly. Then there was the businessman with Crohn's disease. Before, cannabis flare-ups would leave him incapacitated. Now, with a controlled dose, he can manage his symptoms and stay on top of his game. There were others too: a woman with Usher 3 syndrome who compared taking cannabis to turning the lights on in a dark room, and patients with severe pain syndromes who avoided surgery by becoming more active and losing weight thanks to cannabis. One particularly touching case was a writer struggling with severe anxiety and cognitive issues. A year into treatment, she was more focused, happier, and no longer abusing alcohol. A teacher with autism spectrum disorder found that cannabis helped him avoid the destructive path of using alcohol like previous generations of his family. He had found a new lease on life, managing his symptoms effectively. And then there was the middle-aged Hasidic Jew with inflammatory bowel disease who asked the doctor, "Does THC give you wisdom?" It was a question that took Dr. Weinberg by surprise. The man explained that when he took his medical cannabis and then read the Talmud, passages that had once eluded him now made sense. His insights were also validated by both his wife and his rabbi. It wasn't just about feeling high, it was about accessing a deeper understanding. It's a reminder that wisdom doesn't always come from where we expect it. Sometimes it's found in the most unexpected places. For Dr. Weinberg, it was found in the stories of his patients and the profound impacts of a plant that's been misunderstood for so long. It's a lesson in openness and listening and the endless potential for learning and growth no matter where you are in life. So does THC give you wisdom? Maybe it does, or maybe it just opens the door to find the wisdom that was there all along. Either way, it's a journey worth taking. I'm Stone Slade reporting for the High at 9 News.
So you're saying that smoking weed makes you smarter?
It's a possibility.
And this is a study.
I studied it, yeah.
You studied it.
In the cannabis.
Listen, it's not a study. It's about a doctor's personal journey.
Okay, all right. It's a doctor's opinion.
Doctors on our panel.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Wanted to make sure because I got a little confused right there. Just wanted to make sure. So this is a doctor's opinion.
It's a heartwarming story.
I like the story, bro. I don't understand why you're like. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this all correctly.
Bro, why are you coming with the heat on me? What's the matter with you?
You're in Texas, bro. I thought you guys love the heat.
Before the Food and Drug Act, all doctors had these same experiences. They're called anecdotal today as a pejorative, but we have physicians in the family going back way, way back, and they used weed. They didn't call it weed; they call it Indian hemp. But they had anecdotal stories. I mean, if you were a wasting syndrome from tuberculosis, giving you Indian hemp made you hungry, and it, you didn't have a triple-blind study to say it made you hungry. You gave it to somebody, and they all went and ate something. Mm-hmm. You go, oh shit, Stevie Wonder can see this makes you hungry, okay? And Stone, we had between 12 and 15,000 patients. And I can't tell you how many times I sat down with them and downloaded from them their experiences. And a lot of what we got is that cannabis lowered their other input in their brain, pain, whatever it was, and they were able to put that off the side, and they were able to focus and bring their full intellectual capacities to bear, where before they suffered from pain or Crohn's syndrome or epilepsy or migraines or whatever. They put so much energy into that when you lowered that, they were going, oh, I'm smart again. No, you just don't have the other shit going on that took away from the ability to connect the dots. And so many of those stories. It's why I went to prison. I had people that needed weed and couldn't get it. It's like, well, shit, I can grow at my hillside. I'm happy to help you. And that was great till they put me in handcuffs and took me away. But I'd do it again because I was trained in medicine. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, I got a problem, and you can help them with the problem, I think you're a prick and an asshole if you just walk away and go, I'm not going to make any money. I'm risking too much. That's my problem with the medical establishment right there. A bunch of pussies. They will not go out and do what's right for their patient. They're afraid of the government. Oh, the government's going to have something cross to say to me. Well, yeah. You took an oath to help your patient, not to placate the government.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Stone? Thank you for bringing this story, man. This is a heartwarming story, and I will say one thing, man. Like one positive I think that has come out of the pandemic, a whole lot more doctors in favor of cannabis coming to light.
That's true.
And
that's true.
Like pre-cannabis, man, when I was running events, when I was out there in these streets and everything, I would have like doctors on standby. They would be advising me and shit like that, but they did not want to be public about their support of cannabis, like at all. And 4 years later, we're seeing a lot more of these doctors coming out from their just coming out of that green closet, saying that they actually do support. They've actually seen the benefits of it, and I think it's a positive. I hope more and more come forward, and pushes the movement forward and normalizes it even more.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they're teaching about the endocannabinoid system in their medical school neuroscience classes, and actually educating people where these receptors are, how they work, like they do with the opioid receptors. And I mean, it just, Molly, when she went to medical school in the 80s, they didn't even talk about this. All the students were smoking weed, but no one got to study the endocannabinoid system because you couldn't talk about it. It needs to be talked about now as the system regulator that it actually is, and incorporate it in, and not be afraid to recommend that somebody try some low-level cannabis and see if they can figure out your problems and help make you better, which is what a doctor's supposed to be doing, not selling pharmaceuticals or just sticking money in their pocket. They're there to make you better, and that's what this should all be about. And cannabis makes you better.
Yeah, big shout out to the Knox doctors, the whole family of doctors, endocannabinologists. They took the risk as Black women to come out here and talk about this stuff early before everybody else got hopped on the before a lot of not everybody, but before a lot of these other mainstream doctors that are currently practicing got about it too. Educate teacher, right? And they should be teaching their patients, not just pumping them full of opioids. So I'm all for this, and I hope more of them come forward. And thank you for sharing this story, Stone. You warmed my heart, brother, even though Jason's is cold as ice.
How cute. That's right, baby.
See, that's the response I like there. Not Jason jumping down my throat. Is this a study?
I was just asking a question. I don't understand why I can't ask questions.
Calm down. I didn't know you got confused.
So there's a strain out there that'll allow Jason to pull a stick out of his ass. We just got to find out what it is. We'll look for it, okay?
Yeah. The problem is it's probably sun-grown, so he won't smoke it.
There's a month-old suppository stuck in his ass.
Oh, boy.